I would say probably 100 would be where I would cut it off. As in, I'd be a little bit, is there much point going any lower? But I think 100 megatren nth would yield results. But this carries across the boards with all anabolics. The more on point you are with your training and your diet, the more zoned in you are with that, the more, I suppose perfect's not the best word to use, but you get where I'm driving with it.
Absolutely.
That is, the better response you're going to get to minimal gear.
What's up, guys?
Jesus.
Welcome back to the podcast with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally, and all of our programming, it's brought to you by you, the people of Patreon. Thank you guys very much for your support. We've got some Patreon questions, as always, and you guys are also getting early releases of all the shows, when I can get them up early, that is. All of our programming is also brought to you by evalbloodanalysis.com. You can get your lab work done by Dave if you are in the UK. Strom Sports Nutrition for those of you in the UK. Great health and performance supplements. And, of course, TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK here in the States for some high-quality third-party tested supplements from a company you can trust. One last but not least, supplementsource.ca for our Canadians. Great deals that change week to week. Dave, we've got a topic that we have covered before, but that episode isn't around anymore. It's totally gone. So we have to do it again. And I'm kind of curious to know if you have any additional thoughts. I know that you hate Tren. I know it's your least favorite compound. But somebody asked us, can you get away with just using 100 milligrams of Tren per week? So if they're asking, that means that I can't tell them, hey, go back and watch the old episode because that episode's gone. So we did have a topic of low doses of Tren. Is that going to even do anything? Is it worthwhile? What would a low dose look like and what to expect? But also, Dave, we had so many people that were just blowing us up for this 8-week quick summer cut contest. Many people. So
I think we need to clarify some boundaries here. So obviously both me and him, coach. So what we've decided is that if any of our athletes want to enter, they can do. They will, however, be judged by the opposing of us. So I'll judge Scott's, he'll judge mine. And what we're going to do is we're going to shortlist it down to 10 or so. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to get a guest judge in to do the final pick. And we'll try and get someone half reasonable if we can get someone on this bag of crap show that we do. But we'll try and get someone half decent on to Zach could be potentially be quite funny.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. That would be awesome. Yeah, so we were thinking, get and I sent off an email to True Nutrition today. We'll have to talk to Rick over at Strom Sports Nutrition. Excuse me. That way, we want to be able to have a good prize for whoever wins, no matter where you're at. I was thinking, too, I could get a T-shirt sent out to you anywhere, wherever you are, worldwide. That can be done. And we have supplementsource.ca for our Canadians. So that would cover people north of the border here. So we'll have something. We don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but that will be unfolding,
And Scott's going to give the winner a lifetime coaching for free, and he's going to pay for all their supplements for the rest of their life as well.
And Dave's going to do lifetime blood work. If you want to get bloods done every day, he'll give you instant lab reports too.
I will. Yeah.
Maybe those last two things aren't going to happen, guys. That might not be part of it. We're recording later in the day today because Dave had some physical therapy. And he is having a lot of fun with that. He's getting his health back in order. People want you to get involved. In fact, we did have a lot of questions and comments, guys. I'm guessing just email me with your entries, okay? mcnallydiets@gmail.com. I said it last week. I'm saying it again. It's in the show notes, too. You can send your entries there for the contest. We're going to need you to save those pictures, though, and send them again because I might lose them by the end of this. So just keep track of that stuff. Do we have an official start date? Are we just is everybody just getting going now? Is that how we're looking at it, Dave?
We did say it last week, but now I've forgotten what we said.
Well, we said we'll start taking them. So I'm thinking last week and this week we'll kind of get the entries together. You're going to be in Greece next week, right? So you'll be
right. So let's say, shall we say entries need to be in by Tuesday the 23rd.
Okay, that sounds good. And we're supposed to have Tanner on for that episode too.
Well, that'll be fine because it's only the deadline date. We don't have to do any more than that, do we? It's just the date we're saying. Yeah. So we do Tuesday the 23rd as the deadline.
Yep, it gives them 2 more weeks from now when we record, a week from when they see it.
And then you've got 8 weeks from that date to submit your final pictures.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So that would be, let's see here, that's 1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 17th of September.
17th of September. And guys, you're going to be freaking shredded by then. It's going to be freaking awesome. So just get on board and get started now. We did get a lot of ideas. This guy, who's this? Mark. He said, gentlemen, the prize for the competition should be an official Dave Moo-Moo. I like that idea. You like that idea?
Moo-Moo's alive.
Also, we got this one. We want a framed eval shirt and a set of free blood work to see how effed up we are. That's not a bad idea.
Actually, the eval shirts are really nice. They're also friggin' expensive.
Yeah, Dave didn't get me one, guys.
Well, no, you're not having one. They're too fucking expensive. But that actually, I might put a Team Eval shirt into it because they are actually really nice.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, listen, let's jump into our questions. I know you guys had a few more comments that I pulled. If you do have any more questions, feel free to comment, but I think we're pretty straightforward. Like, you can use whatever you want, because somebody was like, can we use gear for this? It's like, the name of the podcast, right? Like, you know what we do here, right? You can do that, but you don't have to. And that doesn't mean, like, realistically, you could take all the gear in the world. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get in better shape. You know what I'm saying, Dave?
No, I think it would be worthwhile mentioning if you have done it naturally, but please don't cheat, for fuck's sake. You're a sad bastard if you start using gear and then say you're not and you're natural on something like this. That would just be pathetic.
Is it cheating, though, if you did use gear and you said you didn't?
No, it's not. But the point is, say someone does a transformation that's half decent. Yeah. But there isn't a huge increase in muscle mass or anything like that. They're in better condition, but but they're a natural athlete. You're like, you know what, for a natural to hold that size and come in that lean, that's really, really good. But if someone's done that and in the process banged another 6 pound on, as well as getting lean, then tried to claim the natural, it's a bit. Yeah. Well,
here's what I see. The only thing that would be cheating would be like deep fake photos. You know what I mean? Like if you were to, and maybe we'll have to get Goob involved. We'll have to run our pictures by Goob. He'll detect any fraudulent or fake activity. So, guys, I know Goob. I've got him on speed dial. So don't you go messing around here with us. All right. So anyway, our topic. One more question, real quick. Scott, what about a reverse transformation from contest shape to 8 weeks post show rebound?
I'm down for that. Let's see how fat we can get. Yes, that's my kind of language.
I think he meant I had a great rebound. I gained 20 pounds, of muscle.
That's not what I'm reading. I'm reading that as let's see how fat we can get. I'm down with that. No, definitely.
So you're involved then. You're going to do this.
Oh, definitely. This is how fat we can get. I'm in.
All right. Well, Dave's involved now, guys. All right, let's get to our questions because I know you've had a long day and you still have a lot more to do. Like I said, we had a listener who wrote in and they're like, hey, is there any benefit to doing something like 75 Tren every week or even 100 Tren every week? And I'm going to assume it could be either a Nethade or Ace, I guess. But, what do you think, Dave? 100 milligrams or 75 milligrams per week, is there going to be benefit? I say yes. But there's kind of there's a dose response. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's the thing is with Tren, it is an incredibly, incredibly powerful drug. So even what would be possibly considered ineffective dosing levels, it's still going to have some impact. I can't really stress how strong a drug Tren is. It is on another planet when it comes to anabolics, really. Particularly, I mean, when you start looking at things like methylated Tren, it's just insane.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say probably 100 would be where I would cut it off. As in, I'd be a little bit, is there much point going any lower? But I think 100 megatren nth would yield results. But this carries across the boards with all anabolics. The more on point you are with your training and your diet, the more zoned in you are with that, the more, I suppose perfect's not the best word to use, but you get where I'm driving with it.
Absolutely.
That is, the better response you're going to get to minimal gear. So a lot of us, and we've all done it, I've done it, I'm sure Scott's done it at some point in his life, relied on the drugs to carry us through when we knew training wasn't quite where it should have been, diet wasn't quite where it should have been, but we knew if we pushed a bit more with this or did a bit more of that, we would get through it. It would compensate for it to an extent, and we'd get away with not being quite as on point as we should have been.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. The more on point you are, the less you need of anything.
Yep.
And with a drug as powerful as Tren, 100 milligrams can actually have some nice effects, particularly if you were somebody that was quite lean, not far out from a show. You could actually see some decent things coming off just adding a small amount of training at that point. But yeah, the more on point you are, the less drug you're going to need and the better response you're going to get. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of us just don't like to be that self-critical and that I've forgotten the word, it's gone out of my head. But where we hold ourselves that accountable, for the other areas of what we do in order to gain muscle mass or get lean, i.e. diet and training.
Yep, I'm with you. I would say absolute least amount. I'll tell you the least I've used was 25 ACE every other day. I did notice something out of it. I had the test pretty low too. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to try this. And it's back in the day. I've talked about this before. It was back in the day when we used to make our Tren out of the cattle pellets. And and so I just thought, like, you know what? I had really bad side effects when I ran it like full bore. So I'm going to try 25 every other day. It lasted for several weeks, and then I started up in the dose, and I was fine. I learned a valuable lesson there, that if I started with 100 every other day of Tren Ace, I got terrible side effects. But if I started at 25 and over the course of 8-10 weeks tapered up a little bit as I went, I could handle it. Now, all that said, I did all this messing around with Tren before I even competed. When I competed and I had everything dialed in perfectly, I worked with a coach, and he had me run it for the last 8 weeks of my my second contest, I believe it was, at 50 every other day. And I told him, I was like, oh man, I can handle 100. 100 every other day is fine. He's like, let's just go at the 50. And guess what, man? I had literally the best results I had ever gotten out of Tren at that point. But like you said, I had everything nailed, I
mean, I bring it in with some powerlifting cycles and stuff, and I'll bring it in as low as 50 Tren Ace, 50, 2-3 times a week, 4 weeks out from the comp. And that's more than enough to give them a kick in those final few weeks just to push their strength up.
Yeah. Super economical would be, because that's the other thing. So, are you going to take a lot of some other compound that isn't as strong, or, just a little tiny bit of Tren? Maybe you're going to save some money that way. Like a vial of Trenanethate, and you're at 100 every other day. That's like, a half a milliliter, every week. That's like a half a milliliter a week. Like that's one vial is your whole cycle plus, Yeah.
No, it is an effective drug. It is a strong drug, and yes, it can bite you in the arse. There's no way you can get out of that or deny that. But at the same time, it will work at low doses, and it can work very, very well.
Yeah. All right, let's see what else we have. Guys, if you want to take part in the next show, then comment below. All your comments, all that stuff. It helps to boost us in the algorithm, but also, too, this is what the show's all about. We answer your questions here on the program. By the way, I didn't mention at the start, Dave is an expert witness for the UK court system, testifying with PEDs, anabolics, all that stuff. Defense.
Yes, I do. I specialize in defense. Yes.
So I should use that word? Defense in my little spiel?
Defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Dave is an educator to the police and military in the UK. So there's that.
Well,
sometimes people have asked, they're like, who is this guy and why is he telling us about gear? What's his credentials? He took a lot of steroids, guys. There's that.
I'm just a fat bloke that talks a lot of bollocks now and again.
All right. Let's see what else we have here. So like I said, we have a lot of questions. Somebody asked for the contest if they can use Clen. They say, I'm hitting a plateau on my cut. He says, great show, gentlemen. Thank you. Hitting a plateau on my cut. So I was thinking of adding Clen. That this contest is just in time. Any chance that you guys could inform us on the dosages and timing, split or all at once? Appreciate you, lads. Can I tell them my thing, Dave?
I was going to say, this is your kettle of fish. Go on.
20 to start is what so theoretically, 20 to start, adding 20 every 2 to 3 weeks. But let me say this. I use it like we have, if we just have diet and cardio as our tools, those are 2 buttons, right? We add Clen, now we have a 3rd button. Now, there's the way I look at it. If we decide that we're going to add Yohimbine to that, we've got a 4th button. So we get you going. Let me paint a picture, Dave. We got your diet set up. You hadn't been on plan before, right? Now you're cleaning things up. You lose 7 pounds the first week because you used to eat McDonald's. Now you're eating all clean food, rice and chicken, egg whites, stuff like that, oatmeal. We do 25 minutes of cardio along with this 5 days a week. We're cruising along. We have a lot of carbs in there. And once that stops, then maybe we start restricting a little bit of carbs, and then the scale starts coming down. And then we, make a few other modulations. Now we just hit the diet button. Later, we might hit the cardio button, add 5 minutes of cardio. And at some point, we'll hit the Clen button, add the 20 Clen. Now, we're still going along, making progress. And then we've got all these different buttons that we can hit to keep making progress. 2-3 weeks down the road, we can hit that Clen button again. Now we go to 40. Boom. Now we're going up a little bit on that. Progress keeps moving along. So it's something that I like to use it that way. So it's not written in stone that it's every 2 weeks you need to increase. I do believe there is still benefit 3 weeks down the road, even at the same dose. So maybe even 4, but it's starting to wane, That's my thought, at least.
I'm not opposed to it in the slightest. I think the problem is with most people is, whereas you, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that you generally have your cuts quite long. Well, maybe not quite long, but a lot of people will look at like an 8-week cut or a 12-week cut.
True.
But you're more the 16 plus, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, even longer for a prep, if possible.
Yeah, so you pull out from quite a long way, so obviously that works really well with that sort of long-sighted approach. At the end of the day, if time's getting short and the pressure's on, then unfortunately things have to be pushed a bit harder, and that may mean the drugs have to come up. But you've just got to make sure. The thing is with Clen as well, it's going to be at its best when you've got the calorie deficit that it requires to work optimally. I mean, I know this isn't strictly true, but I like to think as Clen as a drug that makes fat usable for energy.
Yeah, okay.
But you need to be in a position where you need to use that fat as energy, otherwise it becomes a bit of a wasted product. So I would obviously make sure that point is the first instance. Don't go on a diet and think, right, well, I'm just going to take Clen.
Yeah.
It needs to be used in conjunction. It's most effective when everything else is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And those calorie levels and output levels will change from individual to individual. But I see so many people that say I'm going on a cut, and then the next thing is they're taking Clen, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
Are
I
you
feel like
even
that's a
gonna get-
Band-Aid, because then you can't tell, like, is the diet really even working or is it just the Clen?
But even then, you're going to limit the ability for the Clen to do its job properly if you're not pushing that calorie deficit hard enough. So it's like L-carnitine works better when you really need, the energy because your calorie deficit is quite harsh, and it does more. I find carnitine does more the bigger the deficit is.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a fan now of L-carnitine. I didn't use it years ago, but now that we've got the 600 milligram per milliliter stuff, that's a good.
I think the biggest problem with L-carnitine is people are possibly too budget driven that they can't actually afford to do it as high as it really wants to be.
So I don't know about for fat loss, but just for the energy production aspect of it, I find that years ago, it was only available from like one major place here in the U.S., and it was 200 milligrams per milliliter. And I thought to myself, this is a daily shot. There's no way I'm getting involved with this stuff because I'm already taking a lot of shots, But now that they have the 600 milligram, I don't do as many shots. I gave it a try from the amino site that we've talked about before. And I found that I got even like 300 milligrams. I noticed like increased sweating during cardio or training, increased energy production, and increased mental clarity too.
I found 600 very, very powerful. 600 daily, very, very powerful in a diet. Very powerful.
And that's
shockingly so.
That's what everybody had always suggested back in the day was like you had to take the 600. And that's why I never did it because it's like, man, I don't want to take 3 cc's a day, But yeah, I've gone to 6, but I'm okay with a little bit less. But I'm with you. I think that it shocking. It compared to what I expected, it was shocking. Effect. What about T3, T4? We had a question here. Shoot, darn it! I thought I had it pulled right. Here it is. Is there a benefit to splitting the dose of T3 and T4?
I'd say no.
T4, I would say no. T3, I would say yes. It was weird. So Tanya Miller chimed in because I said the half-life is really short one day on T3. And she was like, no, the half-life isn't. I forget what it was. No, I was saying like the half-life is like 8 hours is what I said. And she was like, no, I think it's a lot shorter than that. So Scott Stevenson looked it up. And the way I understood it was, so the half-life is short, I believe, but the effect, even though the half-life short, there's still a major effect for that 8 hour whatever window, and for that reason splitting it could be beneficial between meals. I always try to do that just to be safe. I've heard people say T3 doesn't matter between meal or with food. I've heard that, but T4 does. Just to be safe, I just don't even mess around. I make sure it's without food.
I believe its absorption is compromised by food and caffeine, the same as T4, but I couldn't swear to that. The only issue you may find is I've seen a lot of people, especially if they're taking it night time.
Yeah,
that it's disrupted their sleep and caused night sweats and various other bits and bats of that nature.
Okay, I haven't seen it that much, but then again, though, I try to keep it real low, like 25. So you might be doing 12.5, 12.5. We didn't answer the other guy's question about Clen. He said, should you split it up or take it all at once? What do you think there?
I would say all at once, personally.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this story, Dave. I made a really terrible mistake with Clen one time. Like a really bad mistake. I accidentally doubled my dose for about a week.
Well, yeah, but that depends. If your dose was 20 and you doubled it to 40, that's no big deal. If your dose was 60 and you double it to 120, that's going to be a bit more impacting.
I was on 120 at the time.
And you went up to 240?
For about a week.
Fucking hell. Gotta put you in the bath and throw the washing in and get it done.
Yeah, it was a mistake, man. I switched tabs. I had these, smaller tabs, and I got these larger tabs, and I was brain dead, man. But and it was toward the end of a prep, and I had you know what it did to me is it dramatically lowered my blood pressure, like way down. And I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm going to go do my cardio this morning, got to get moving. And I took my Clen, and you know, I'm going to be doing cardio in the next 20 minutes. And I just like had to sit down in the hallway, moving from the bedroom to the kitchen. I was like, oh, just the diet's really kicking my ass. It's really kicking my ass. Then I figured out what was going on. But it was probably the biggest mistake I ever made. Like, it wasn't even a newbie mistake, man. I was like well in the game. So I guess it just goes to show, and I'll admit it, it was lame. It was dumb. But I made that mistake. So I've found low dose, I don't split it at all. If you were to start to get side effects from it, I might do like first thing in the morning, like say like we're doing 80 or 100 and you're starting to feel jittery from it. Maybe first thing in the morning and then a few hours later, just to kind of like stagger that initial burst that you get. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. How about this one? It says a question for the next show, PCT after a few years of use. I've been cycling, then blasting and cruising for about 8 years. I'll turn 40 in January. I want to come off of everything, preferably not even having to use TRT. What PCT options would I look into for this? I still will lift, still do cardio, be active, and keep the diet, but it is now time for a change, a new chapter in my life. Time to get off of the gear and just focus. My focus has changed. He says also, when would be time to consider going on legit TRT? He says, if levels stay low for a month, for a half a year, he says probably with a doctor on board. Thanks, fellas. He said, I've tried searching for a PCT on the channel, but the search function did not find anything. The search sucks.
So I would be looking at Scallies. It's heavy, but in this scenario, I think it's definitely very warranted. I'd potentially even add in some OTC test boosters, such as Tribulus, Macaroon, Turkesterone, or whatever, towards the back end of that as well. Will you recover? It's not impossible. People have. It's not commonplace. Whether that not commonplace is because they just haven't been able to handle being low for a period after the PCT until things finally start to get better. There's a lot of conflict in research. There's a Dutch study which is, I don't think, particularly good, that shows that actually people that did no PCT recovered just as well as people that did. And in fact, that some of the PCT people didn't recover as well. But that sort of counters every other research that's ever been done around PCT. Obviously, Scally did a lot. Yeah, he did some shit he shouldn't have done as well. But at the end of the day, he may have prescribed things he may not have possibly should have done. Possibly. Oh. Maybe. But at the end of the day, he's probably got the most experience with monitoring PCT results with people. So, I put a lot of weight in his experience. I put a lot of weight in his knowledge around PCT because he's seen it and done it. And I found his protocol to be generally quite effective. There is always the option of trying Trep. I can never say
Triptorelli.
Thank you. There was obviously the study that everyone cites there is the Italian bodybuilder, 10 years suppressed, took one dose and he recovered. But, and this, I was actually speaking to someone about this yesterday.
He was Italian?
You've got to be careful.
That the answer? Italian. Like those Italian guys, man, they're virile. No. So that is, I thought that's what you're going to say. Okay.
No, a lot of these recovery reports are quite soon after finishing PCTs. And I've seen numerous times people do PCTs, 4 or 5 weeks later they test, levels are not amazing, but they're passable, they're decent, they're enough. And then 6 months down the line they're on their ass. So it's difficult to really know how successful a lot of these recoveries have been because we don't have any follow-up 6 months, 12 months, 24 months down the line.
Yeah.
My personal opinion is the chances of full recovery will be low, but you're not going to do any harm doing a PCT. And at least if you've done it, you know.
Yeah.
You're going to need to wait 4 to 6 weeks post PCT before you can accurately look and see if you're sustaining natural production. And then you need to be cautious of the fact that 6 months post, you're probably still going to be quite fragile. And there is the possibility that it will drop off and drop low anyway. If so, obviously, you've always got TRT. You can just go straight into TRT. It's not a big problem.
You could run another PCT as well.
You can try that as well, yes. And obviously, TREP's an option as well. But when I do aggressive PCTs, I like to base them around Scally. But the main difference is I will add in some natural test boosters at the last 3 weeks to sort of just try and support that recovery as much as you can.
I try to add them in after a lot of times. Like once you're off, then we'll go to like the D-aspartic acid, stuff like that.
Well, I bring them in as we're starting to taper down on the Clobin and Novadex. So as we're starting to lower the artificial support of signaling,
yeah,
I tend to taper them in at that point so that by the time we get those, at the time the SERMs are fully removed, so now we're not artificially pushing FSH and LH up through blocking receptors.
Yeah.
At that point, I want to make sure that the natural test boosters are well established within the body.
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. So he's been blasting and cruising for 8 years now. Just one thing to throw in there. I don't want to dissuade him whatsoever, but like as far as the odds and where they're stacked, your test levels, if you never touched anything, are already probably going to be, I'm not going to say they're going to crash from the time you're 32 to the time you're 40. I'm not going to say that, but yeah, test levels of a 30-year-old guy are generally, for a lot of people, going to be higher than when they turn 40, even without having messed around with hormones. So there is that factor. It's like a decade later down the road almost,
Yeah, I think the stats are something like 80% of anyone who's cycled 6 or more times, 80% will be TRT dependent. I think they're the stats that... what's his name? Fuck. He's an American as well. I can't remember his name. There's a study he did.
I don't know.
Nope, gone. Completely gone.
All right. The other week, we had Broderick on, and he had said that equipoise is basically the same thing as Dbol. This is one of our questions. The question was, so what's the difference between injectable Dbol and equipoise then?
No, right. So this is when people don't friggin' listen and make shit up in their head. What he said is the chemical structure of the compounds is very, very similar, but the compounds act completely differently.
But what they heard was it's the oral version of Boldenone, of equipoise.
Yeah, but it's not, is it?
No. So what's changed?
In what sense?
It's altered, and Broderick said that it's altered to sustain. It's methylated so it can sustain passing the liver.
Dbol is, yeah, but Dbol's testosterone based. EQ. You said Dbol was the same as EQ. Did you just not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dbol's testosterone based. EQ sits halfway between the testosterone family and the DHT family. It's a very weird compound. Technically, it is test based, but though the chemical structures are very similar, they act nothing like each other in the actual actions of the drugs. They're completely different. At the end of the day, EQ in some people has a very strong anti-estrogen effect. Dbol doesn't.
Yeah.
Dbol actually converts to one of the most powerful forms of estrogen there is. It's a synthetic version, but it's incredibly strong, which is why water retention is such a problematic issue when you're using Dbol. So, though the chemical structures are similar, that's where the similarity ends. And his example was, it is effectively in a structural point of view, but actually as a drug, they're completely different. Totally different.
Yeah, and the methylation will change any drug.
Methylation changes drugs completely as well, yes. And I can't remember exactly it's to do with the bonding, and I can't remember the exact differences. But, I mean, the DNA of us as a species is incredibly close to a lot of other animals.
Yeah,
but
Dave and I were
different.
Like me, normal human being, I have pretty close to the same DNA as Dave, but you would never know that, right?
Yeah, we have the same DNA.
We have
as in species type DNA.
I'm a little bit better. Let's be honest, a little more evolved, Dave. A little less.
Then why are you so small?
Right. Dave,
you went there.
We watched something the other day, and they were talking about the Vikings, and they're talking about how the Vikings went to York. We went to York. And you are from that area, right? You were like born and bred. Like, you've been in York. Your people have been in York for a long time, haven't they?
So my understanding,
I'm just going to ask: are you part Viking?
Yes.
I kind of had a feeling you might have been. That's where I was going with
right.
This.
So the lineage is approximately 1,000 years ago, maybe slightly more. Huddersfield, where I actually live, was settled by my ancestors, who were Viking traders and farmers.
Okay.
So there you go. So I actually live in the town that my great ancestors actually settled as a settlement as Viking settlers that moved over here to trade.
I just was thinking back to that the ride that we took in York, where we went through the town.
The Jorvik Center. Yeah, the Jorvik Center.
Yeah, if I remember, I have video of that because I shot it on my phone, I think it was on my phone. It might have been on my camera, but I'll see if I can roll some of that in. It was just like a 4-person cart, right? Like a roller coaster cart, but it just goes on a track, and it would turn, and it just went real slow, and it went through the city of York, way back in the day. They even had smells in there, the smells of things, the not the perfumes, but the musk that you'd smell in the air at the time from the herbs they used and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they've got that petrified turd as well.
That was cool. That was memorable.
That's huge. That's a big shit.
I don't remember the turd.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's like a baby's arm. It's massive. Guy must have been crying when that came out. That's all I'm saying. Or either that or Vikings had very large bum holes.
You ever hear of it says it's a supplement, Banned Nutrition, Cardazzle. Cardazzle. I'll look it up here.
You sure that's not related to Vajazzle?
Let's see here. Cardazzle. Cardazol. Banned Nutrition. Let's see what it is. Okay. Oh. Okay. Interesting. Cardazzle. It says GW.
Cardazzle.
Yeah, I think it might be. I'm wondering here. It says it hard. Let's see, endurance hardcore. Cardio sucks, folks. It's so I think it might be. Is it really GW? I don't know. Huh. Oh, it says elephant in the room. Cardarine is ineffective. I don't know what this is, man. But it looks like a. I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything. It's supposed to be some sort of product. I think it. I don't know, Dave. But Cardazzle, it kind of looks like Cardarine. It has GW in quotes and a parenthesis next to it. It just looks kind of funky. So I'm not gonna say either way what it is, but it just, if you ask me, it kind of looks like when you see a product like a supplement, a vial like this, or a tub, and it says like test across it, or it says something like that, Winnie H or something. All right, we'll see what else we have here, if there's anything else. More questions about the show. Dave, you have to join us for the cut.
No.
Is that?
No.
We had a comment here because we were talking about people with blood sugar. They said, I genuinely think that a lot of times people are not responding to their diet in a cut, that they're cheating and they're lying through their teeth. There are people who do that, isn't there?
I think there are, but I also think there's people that just don't actually realize that there's calories in things that they don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had, not that long ago, actually, a client. They were doing really well. Everything stalled out. And then I was like, you sticking to that? Yeah, I'm sticking to that. I'm sticking to that. And then it turned out they were going to the coffee shop a couple of times a day and having like 3 pumps of syrup in this coffee. And these coffees were like 400 calories a pop.
Oh,
and
God.
It's like,
yeah.
And people just don't realize, sometimes people genuinely just don't actually understand that some things they are actually consuming have high levels of calories.
Yeah, there is that. And then there's people that just have like issues losing fat, It's sometimes it's like, because like we're talking about, man, if you have messed up blood sugar, you might have a hard time losing fat as effectively as somebody that's healthy. Or let's say that you have like messed up thyroid, you might have a harder time than somebody else, or even low test.
I have issues losing fat.
Yeah, you?
Yeah.
What's your issue?
I eat too much.
I was waiting for it. All right, we're almost through our questions here. We did have like maybe a couple more here on the stream. It says, I have a question for the next show. I'm sure I've heard Dave say Primo is hard on HDL. I just wanted to know if Mast is as harsh on HDL, as I struggle to maintain good levels of HDL while on TRT or cycles. Thanks in advance. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Andy.
Not as much, but yes, more so than testosterone.
Okay, yeah. What, we've talked about it before. We've talked about the idea. You've mentioned it. I've listened to you say it. Between cycles, doing everything you can to get your HDL up, right?
Yeah. It's just you. I think one of the big problems now is that people don't. To me, a cruise period, a TRT period, or whatever you want to call it, that period between cycles is where in 99.9% of cases you return to natural ranges of testosterone.
Yep.
And you remove all other compounds and chemicals. Because what you're trying to do is firstly get rid of all the stress that you've created by being on cycle, and then allow the areas that are negatively impacted for cycle, like blood thickness, HDL, to recover and improve. So that you have a buffer going into your next cycle that allows them to be deteriorated by the drugs you're using. And you're not starting from a low base. But so many people come up with this bullshit that I'm big, so I need this, I'm big, so I need that. And it's absolute bollocks. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if you're at 365 pounds, I could come down to proper TRT levels and I would hold my size for 3 months.
Yeah.
Anything over that, I would start to struggle and I would start to drop strength and size. And you could literally almost time it to the day. It would be, and I'd see this decline in performance. But that's 3 months. 3 months is, in most cases, more than what most people are bridging for anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we've now got people doing a cycle, coming off for 6 weeks. And it's like, if you were on 1.5 grams total AAS and you come off for 6 weeks, your levels aren't even going to get into range till week 5.
Right.
So you've not been off at all. So what was the effing point? you might as well, you just elongating and continually being on a cycle. And then they get 5 years down the line and things are messed up and they're having all sort of anxiety issues and all sort of other developmental problems because they've never let these stress levels drop and they've never taken care of their body in between the cycles. So for me, it's important that when you bridge between cycles, you take that time to repair and improve so that you have the redundancy moving into the next cycle for the inevitable effect that cycle is going to give you.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. Let's see what we have here in the live stream. How about Superdrol? I'm not going to put this on the screen, Brant, but he says, hey guys, love the show. Thoughts on running Tren in the off season? Well, I guess we didn't really talk about Tren in the off season. We just talked about low doses. We have talked about that though very recently. So instead of answering that, let's answer his other question. Opinions on Superdrol. Much love from Canada. What's up, Brant?
I don't mind Superdrol, though it's not the mildest of drugs. I think its harshness is a little bit exaggerated. I don't think it's the liver killer that everyone tries to make it out to be. It is a strong compound. You're definitely going to be very full on Superdrol.
Yeah.
I've never got much of strength base off it, but I believe you have, haven't you?
No, I haven't, because I haven't
Okay.
used it much. I had some and I tried to run it consistently and it just absolutely killed my appetite. So I gave it away, but I have used it with competitors going into a contest. So it's not and they have noted like increased strength, and I do see that fullness. I know somebody who has talked about it being popular with wellness competitors now leading into the show.
Okay.
It's a strong one. It's a strong one.
Yeah, but I mean, this is, people get very, it makes me laugh, all right, because there'll be a guy taking 2 gram of gear, and he'll judge a female for taking 5 milligrams of test.
Yeah. Well, 5 milligrams is not equivalent to by any means. No. Yeah.
It's like, guys, come on. I mean, girls generally, I mean, I do know some high user girls, but girls generally are very conservative with their drug use, particularly compared to males. And I don't mean dose for dose. I mean dose in comparison to natural levels and such like.
Yeah. I do think there's it could be kind of a can of worms to talk about, but I think that, and Victoria and I have talked about this before, that for so long women were told, like, you can only do this, you can only take Anavar, you can only take Primo, that's it, maybe a little Winstrol, and that now women are realizing, like, well, I can take really anything, but obviously dose is the factor. That said, I think the pendulum is swinging in the opposite direction now, is what I'm seeing.
Oh, I think we'll see a boom in women's usage, and we'll see some quite elevated doses, because I think there's more women out there that, and this isn't a besmirch in any way, that are quite happy with the potential masculinization of themselves in order to pursue the goals that they want to achieve. And that's a personal choice, and I don't stand in any judgment of that.
Yeah, that's a factor.
If you're happy with that and that's your choice, crack on. I don't have an issue with that in the slightest. But a lot of males and a lot of the male bodybuilding seems to stand in judgment of a woman because she may be developing male characteristics. But it's like, and you're generating a limp dick and shit mental health. But what's the difference?
They got the mental health stuff too. They've got the mental health stuff too.
Yeah, but I mean,
I know what you mean.
It's their choice. You know what I mean? It's their choice, and if they're happy with that, then who is anyone else to judge it?
Yeah. There is kind of that, like, I'm judging you off of what I think pretty is. I'm judging your decisions off of what my version of what you should look like is. You know what I mean?
I know a couple of very successful females, as in world-renowned successful females, who have openly said to me, I made a choice and I accepted the masculinization, and I accept that I do look male to an extent, because for me, that trade-off was worth the achievements I've made in the sport that I chosen.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same argument I have with how fucked up I am now. I made that choice, and I accept the consequences of what I did to achieve what I wanted to achieve.
Cole Zod is with us. He says, hey guys, I listened to all your podcasts, but have never made it to a live stream before. I had to sign off and get back to work, but before I did, I wanted to say that you guys are awesome. Rock on. So if he watches the recorded version of this, you'll get to hear that we gave him a shout out. All right, anything else here? He says, is Dave familiar with SDMA? I don't even know what this word is. It's a biomarker for kidney function. I'll put it up.
No, I'm not actually.
I'm not familiar.
No, I'm not. There is the problem is, and this isn't a criticism of Armand's comment or anything like that. The problem is there are, without doubt, markers out there that would potentially be very useful in assessing potential problems in someone who's an anabolic user in the way of like kidney health and stuff like that. The issue is that they're just not freely available. So even though they might be great, it's a bit of a moot point because you can't fucking get it.
Well, you might be able to in the US. Who knows?
You might be able to in certain places, but then is it cost prohibitive? I mean, I know Cystatin C is available in the UK, but friggin' hell, it's expensive.
Yeah.
In comparative to an EGFR check, yeah, he's very expensive.
Martin says, I have Deca in my refrigerator, 2 years old, and injectable Winnie, 3 years old. Do you think it is still good to use? My question to him is, why is it in your refrigerator?
Deca, I wouldn't be too worried about. The Winnie, I'd be concerned about what it's based in.
If it's water?
Mm.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. If it's water, listen, if it's water-based Winnie, just throw it out anyway. That's my thought. Just chuck it, man. Get some tablets. All right. Yeah.
All right.
I think that's it, Dave.
And on that beautiful note, beautiful people, we shall leave you for another week.
We appreciate you guys, and Dave, I appreciate you making the time, man. I know you were freaking busy as heck today.
But that was my fault, just bad timing. I just didn't manage my day very well, so I apologise for making it late. We actually got 21 live. We never get 21 live.
Well, that's because we only go live on my Facebook page. It's why. But now we're on the YouTube B channel, and I think people are starting to figure that out. So they're tuning in on the YouTube B channel. Which, if you haven't subscribed, go over there and subscribe because you never know what's going to show up there.
Is that basically what you're saying? Is nobody follows your Facebook page?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Nobody wants to watch the show. Does I can't accept any new friends over there, but that's all right because I don't do anything on Facebook anyway, other than post this show and go over to the Facebook group for Think Big. Dave, we appreciate your time, man. Do you have Pillars of Strength coming up, don't you?
Yeah, I'm just basically I need another 2 people before we can fix a date. Once we get another 2 people, then we can fix a date. Okay,
are we off next week then?
I can do, but it's going to be from a hotel room in Greece, but I'm more than happy to do. I'll have the laptop with me because I'm going to be working. So
if you want to, let's do this. I'll message you. If you want to do it, I'm up for it. If you don't want to do it, that's okay too, because everybody needs a vacation. How about that?
Let's see how the internet is, because that's probably going to be the deciding factor.
All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Leave us questions for the next show. Damn it, I forgot to mention, Dave. You know what? One more thing we have to get good at. We have to tell people to subscribe. We never tell people to subscribe. Do you notice that?
That's your job. You do that stuff.
We got to do it together, I think. Ron and Dustin do it together.
I sit here and look pretty, and you do the technical stuff.
I stole Dusty's voice. I can say like, share, subscribe, and you like that?
Didn't hear anything. It just went quiet.
Oh, well, the listeners heard it. All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you to Strom Sports Nutrition in the UK, evalbloodanalysis.com. Get your lab work done by Dave in the UK. TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK for additional savings. In fact, I just placed an order this week. Should be coming in any day now. And SupplementSource.ca. Thank you to our Patreons, guys, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Dave. All right.